Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I am Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show, the podcast, the YouTube channel. You can find me anywhere you find content. I'm filling in for David as he travels to Politicon. Seems like we spent a lot of time together, you and I, David's audience. So let's just jump right into the news. All the pleasantries aside, let's file this very first story underneath Captain Obvious. A report came out, a study actually, from three political scientists, one from UCLA, one from UC Berkshire, and the other from Princeton, that concludes that they found more statistical evidence that what motivated Donald Trump supporters was not economic anxiety, as many people have been saying over the last 2 years, but instead racism. Plain and simple. The three authors of the study actually called it racially conservative views. So if you want to be a little more delicate with this audience, we can call it racially conservative views, whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is they found more evidence that it was not economic anxiety that pushed them to support Donald Trump, but they were more influenced by their racially conservative views. I want you to juxtapose that story with the recent survey that came out from the Marketplace.org/Edison Research group. Just came out yesterday as well, that says that a new poll release indicates fewer Americans describe themselves as anxious, economically anxious. So this entire trope, this entire narrative that people have been pushing over the last 2 years about economic anxiety being the basis for this support for Donald Trump. I mean, you and I, most of us already knew that it wasn't factual, that there was more to it, and that there was most certainly a racial component to it. Now, I'll get to the study and the survey in a minute, but this is important for several reasons, because if we continuously think that we can reach this group of voters, and we're bending over backwards to reach this group of voters who we think are people on our side, the progressives, think are motivated by economic anxiety, when in reality, they're actually motivated by their racism, then what are we sacrificing in order to outreach to them? Put it like this, the racism is the point. I think someone from the Atlantic, I believe I heard Adam Sewer from the Atlantic say that the cruelty is the point. That's what they like about Donald Trump. This is a feature, not a bug. This is not a unfortunate byproduct of Donald Trump. This is what they like about Donald Trump. Now, that's just my commentary up front, but let's take a look at this quote from Vox, who did a pretty decent summary of the study. And this is what they had to say about the study. It said, quote, "The study from three political scientists from around the country takes a statistical look at a large sample of Obama to Trump switchers. It finds that these voters tended to score highly on measures of racial hostility and xenophobia and were not especially likely to be suffering economically." So there's a lot of things that are happening here. The first thing is this trope, this narrative that Donald Trump supporters were all white working class, poor white working class people. And this isn't the case. There are quite a few individuals who are definitely economically well off. He had a larger percentage of wealthy voters than Hillary Clinton did. So that's the very first thing. And this, you can see this in the Marketplace.org/Edison Research Group survey that just came out yesterday. There's nothing that's changed in the economy for the working class. The working class we're still working class. We're still basically living check to check, right? We're grabbing gigs as we can get them, right? That has not changed. In fact, Donald Trump has exacerbated the situation. He's made it worse. But what has changed in the last 2 years, because you have to ask yourself the question, if people are less economically anxious in 2018 and they were more economically anxious in 2016, what in the world happened? Well, what happened was Donald Trump gave tax breaks to the wealthiest people in this country. And that literally is the only thing economically that Donald Trump has done that could change any of our economic factors. Everything else has been trending because of President Obama's tenure, his presidency. The unemployment rate has been trending this direction since President Obama. So this is not something. The only thing Donald Trump can take credit for, rather, is the fact that he's cut taxes for millionaires and billionaires. And so here we are with a group of people who we said they were economically anxious because, and that's why, rather, they supported Donald Trump. In reality, reality, in many cases, it was the racism that actually drove them. Now, I want to read directly from the study itself. The study said this about their findings. Quote, white voters with racially conservative or anti-immigrant attitudes switch votes to Trump at a higher rate than those with more liberal views on these issues. We find little evidence that economic dislocation and marginality were significantly related to vote switching in 2016. So here's what the theory has been. This has been the prevailing theory since the 2016 election. People said that because this group of white voters who previously voted for Obama and churned and voted for Donald Trump, because they previously voted for Barack Obama, that meant that they could not really be motivated by racism, because how could they be racist if they voted for a black guy twice? Logically, that falls apart. We could break that apart in 1 second. We will. But the study finds that even in this group of voters that previously voted for Barack Obama, who moved over to Donald Trump, they had a greater motivation connected to their racially conservative views than any type of economic anxiety. Period. That's what the study finds. Now, to this idea that you couldn't be racist and voted for Donald Trump, there's actually a great analysis in the Washington Post. I can never remember this guy's name, Michael Slayer or something along those lines. I'll try to find his name for you. But his analysis showed that even voters, 20% of the white voters who supported Barack Obama in 2008 and approximately 20% who supported him in 2012, they voted for a black man, but they still believed that interracial dating was wrong. There have been multiple studies that show this, that there were supporters of Barack Obama who were racist, and they still voted for Barack Obama. And things changed. America changed fundamentally between 2008 and 2016. Everything was racially driven, racially charged. The right wing used race baiting overwhelmingly in every single story, every single day. And this idea that you are a person, if you voted for Barack Obama in 2008, that means that you couldn't possibly be a racist. It actually falls apart when you look at the actual data showing that approximately 20 to 25% of the voters for Barack Obama, white voters for Barack Obama, still believe that interracial dating was a bad thing and was frowned upon. So all those things combined, it paints a picture that has been pretty obvious to you and me and everyone else who's actually paying attention, that the racism, the racially conservative views of Donald Trump supporters is the thing. That's what drives them, the anti-immigration views, and to broaden it even more so, it's the cruelty, it's the bigotry, it's a feature, it's not a bug.
Today's episode is sponsored in part by the music streaming app Tidal, which is there to foster the relationship between artists, fans, and importantly, values diversity in music and also supports criminal justice reform. Tidal's 4th annual benefit concert, called Tidal X Brooklyn, is all about supporting criminal justice reform, reforming and changing the circumstances that have led to more than 2/3 of prisoners serving life without parole for nonviolent offenses being African American. And all net proceeds from Tidal X Brooklyn will help to support charities like Reform, like the Innocence Project, like Cut 50 and the Equal Justice Initiative, that are working specifically on issues of criminal justice. The concert is going to have some great performances, including Lil Wayne, Meek Mill, Anderson .Paak, and Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill. Okay. There will be a free live stream of the entire show on October 23rd. Find out more, donate to the cause, and tune in at tidal.com/Brooklyn. That's TIDAL.com/Brooklyn.